Hello, thank you for tuning in, and it's great to have you with us. Pre-cleaners are a popular product category for you to free the car from the heaviest dirt or to loosen that dirt in the very first and, from my personal perspective, the most important step in the car care routine. When it comes to pre-cleaners, there are basically two different options for how to do this and how to offer it to you. You can be offered this as a concentrate, which means you receive a product, mix it with water according to the manufacturer's instructions, and then spray it onto the car. Or you get a product that is ready to use, that's the English term. It simply means that it is ready for application right here in the bottle, and you can use it just as it comes in the bottle. The product that has personally convinced me completely in the area of pre-cleaners so far is and always has been the Stjarnagloss Först. And this is indeed a ready-to-use product that combines an extremely high cleaning performance with very good material compatibility and a pleasant scent. But that is what has always bothered many of you about the Stjarnagloss Först, the comparatively high price, because it is a ready-to-use product. That means we cannot dilute this any further. Yes, there is the Först X, which is referred to by some as a concentrate. I don't refer to it as a concentrate because you get a bottle that you mix 1 part with 2001 part water, resulting in 2 liters. This makes it a bit cheaper in terms of price, but only marginally. Concentrates are definitely more attractive, if they actually work. Because we have seen with other pre-cleaner concentrates that manufacturers sometimes have a somewhat optimistic view of the dilution instructions. And when tested critically, the cleaning performance can sometimes fall short. That's why I am very curious about how the Wax Citrus PreWash is supposed to work, as it is currently receiving very good reviews in England, especially in English-speaking Facebook groups. And that's why I thought, let's give it a try and see if this is finally a concentrate that can keep up with the Stjarnagloss Först. Let's first address what this is, what is promised, and what it costs. We'll keep it brief. There's really no need to make it complicated. It is an alkaline pre-cleaner. Wax Citrus PreWash. What I find interesting is that it states up top that it is wax and coating safe. That means Wax is at least saying that it is safe for waxed and ceramic coated surfaces. I find this an interesting approach and an intriguing statement. Then there is a powerful, concentrated and safe alkaline pre-cleaner. It is summarized again. Warning labels, I find that interesting. Most alkaline pre-cleaners have the corrosive or caustic symbol on them. With Wax, there is only an exclamation mark. And then, correctly, if it is sold in Central Europe and in Germany, there is a German label on it. For use only on automotive surfaces, they should be applied in well-ventilated areas, gloves should be worn, and contact with bare skin should be avoided as much as possible. I find these to be good and important safety instructions. And it continues like that with warnings about inhalation if it gets into the eyes, respiratory pathways, and so on. I find that very good. I think that is exemplary. I think that is great. Then, regarding the application instructions, that's what most of us are really interested in now. 5:1, so Wax reverses the concentration specifications here. 5:1 or 1:5, that means 2001 part product, which I also confirmed again, that is really meant that way. Mix 1 part product with 5 parts water for heavy soiling, or 10:1 or 1:10 for general use, which means for regular maintenance cleaning in that sense. And this maximum dilution ratio according to Wax is 25:1 or 1:25. Wax also states that a pump sprayer should be used, therefore there is no mention of a foam lance here. It should be left on for 3 to 5 minutes. Let's take a look at the bottom. Nothing is settling at the bottom of the product that we would need to shake up. That's a good sign. In terms of price, this 500 ml bottle costs $14. Compared to other pre-cleaners, that is relatively high and expensive, especially since the concentrations indicated here are not. It is not the product that can be diluted the most on the market and in this product category. The 5-liter canister is significantly cheaper. It costs around $48. And now we know everything there is to know about the product, so we can move on to the test. Let's now proceed to testing the product's promises. And I usually do it the same way for tests of pre-cleaners, so that I have comparable testing conditions across a wide range of these products. I always use my girlfriend's car for that. It is driven 5,000 kilometers per month, which is a lot. Dirt accumulates very quickly as well. And I intentionally leave the sides unsealed so that we always have a consistent unsealed surface there. Regarding the products, I always use the highest specified concentration of the product. For Infinity Wax, that is 5:1. Why do I do it this way? For a very, very simple reason. I want to determine the maximum cleaning performance for myself, because if a product with the highest stated concentration cannot keep up with another very good pre-cleaner, which is my reference product for this test video series, then I know that if I dilute it even further, it probably won't get any better. And on the other hand, if the product can keep up with the highest concentration here, then each of you can go and try it out for yourselves in 2021, how far you can dilute it further so that it still produces the desired cleaning result in the end. Therefore, for this test series, always use the highest specified concentration. This is now 5:1 with the Infinity Wax, as mentioned. I prepared this accordingly in a spray bottle. I then chose a test area on my girlfriend's car and applied both products to this test area. And as you can see in the live recordings, I let them sit on the surface for 3 minutes. This means both products had the same amount of time. This is also in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Both manufacturers say 3 to 5 minutes, and then I rinsed it off with a water jet from the garden hose. I have not used a pressure washer here, and I am consistent about this across all tests, because a pressure washer itself also provides a certain level of cleaning performance. One could now critically note and say, well, these products are intended to be used in combination with a pressure washer, and that is absolutely correct. I only want to assess the pure cleaning performance of the products in these tests, which is why I will omit the pressure washer. After rinsing with the pressure washer, I dried the surface with a paint dryer from Big Boy. Why am I doing this? To visually assess the cleaning performance. Because in the best case, you can already visually see that the area where I sprayed the respective cleaners is less dirty. And indeed, it had to be noted at this point that both cleaners had already produced a very clear effect visually. This means that it is very clear that the surfaces treated with these two cleaners are less dull or less grey, and the red paint of the car stands out more, while the untreated area remains relatively grey and still has all that traffic film on it. It must also be clearly stated and noted at this point that water, yes, is chemically and technically speaking a solvent. Water also has a cleaning effect, but without the supporting pressure of a high-pressure cleaner, the dissolving power or cleaning strength of water is not sufficient to remove a heavily baked-on grey haze or traffic film. And this was very clearly seen here in the comparison of the areas where only water from the garden hose was applied, compared to the areas that were treated with these two pre-cleaners. After I visually examined the results, I sprayed the area again with the garden hose and then went over the surface with cotton pads to assess the cleaning performance based on the remaining dirt. And what you can see now is that we have a difference between the treated and untreated areas. On the untreated area, there is still the most residual dirt present. And on the treated areas, I see that the Infinity Wax Citrus has cleaned just as well as the Stjarnagloss Först from my perspective. And we have to commend it now. Cool, because we have already compared it with other pre-cleaners and found that they did not clean as well as the Stjarnagloss Först. The advantage of a ready-to-use product is that if we know it cleans well, then it always works. I don't have to mess around with different dilution variants. I don't have to worry that the water I use might not be suitable for making mixtures because it's too hard, because it's too soft, as there are different statements about that. Some say to use demineralized water, others say to use distilled water. Some argue that you need the minerals in this water for the products to work properly. There are different statements, and all of that is eliminated with a ready-to-use product. And I have rarely seen a pre-cleaner that follows the manufacturer's instructions for dilution and actually cleans as well as this one does. And I have now finally found one that does. But, and I have also done this additionally, you have now seen the results with the cotton pads. I then wet the surface again and washed over it with a wash mitt that contained Kokomi GSF, which is a pH-neutral car shampoo. This was personally important to me. I wanted to show you one more thing. I then dried the surface, and you can clearly see the difference in terms of the optical effect. Now all surfaces were and are completely clean. I also went over the surfaces again with cotton pads to further emphasize this. And this must be made very clear at this point. On a heavily soiled surface, it is an absolute myth to believe that the mere application of the pre-cleaner, even if it is a strong pre-cleaner, will be sufficient to remove all the dirt. That is simply a myth. We must and we will always need to wash over the surface again with a wash mitt to ensure that the traffic film has been completely removed. And this video and these recordings show that very, very clearly. But Yusan, the conclusion that these products are nonsense and do nothing would also be fatal and incorrect. For we have clearly seen before, both visually in a dry state and with the cotton pads, that both products left a cleaner surface or a less heavily soiled surface. This means that when we wash a surface that has been treated with such a pre-cleaner, we rub less dirt over the surface, which also reduces the risk of causing scratches. Moreover, because the dirt is partially removed and partially dissolved, it can be more easily removed from the surface with less pressure, which also reduces the risk of scratching. So it was important for me to show this at this point. There are limits to how these pre-cleaners work, and we will still need to wash with wash mitts and car shampoo afterwards. But it makes sense to use them because we significantly reduce the risk of scratches. So what remains to be said about the Infinity Wax Citrus PreWash Concentrate? My personal assumption as to why this worked better here than others is the following. 1 to 5 as indicated here for heavy soiling. So this is the strongest concentration specified for heavy dirt. My assumption is the following. 1 to 5 is not that strong when diluted. There are other manufacturers that work with ratios of 1 to 10, but that would already be half of 1 to 5. There are also ratios of 1 to 2001, 1 to 101, 1 to 201, and even 1 to 1000 in some cases. From my personal perspective, these concentrates are too weak for heavily soiled surfaces, and some manufacturers are overly optimistic about their effectiveness. Or what I rather suspect is that these manufacturers are tempted to try to gain a competitive advantage in the competition with other products from different manufacturers by simply stating a higher dilution on the bottle. This creates the impression that, well, I can dilute it more. So this is the cheaper and better product because it is implicitly assumed that all these products clean first and clean equally well. And that is simply not the case. My assumption as to why this works well here is that you only dilute it 1 to 5 and then it cleans very, very well. Now one could say, well, fairly speaking, one should also test other products at a 1 to 5 ratio. But I clearly say no. If a manufacturer tells me that the maximum concentration is 1 to 10 or 1 to 50, then I will test the product accordingly. Because I have to assume that if I use it incorrectly, contrary to the manufacturer's instructions, it can lead to undesirable side effects, especially regarding material safety, where these products are ultimately not as harmless compared to a pH-neutral snow foam. That's why I stand by it. I believe it works well, because it isn't diluted too much. And that's why it performed very well in this test against the Stjarnagloss Först in terms of price. It is not the cheapest pre-cleaner, that must be said clearly. It is available in a 500 ml bottle, but it is also offered in a 5-litre canister, where it becomes significantly cheaper. But if you use it at a concentration of 1 to 5, we can't go below 1 per application. For many, that's the magical threshold. And there are pre-cleaners that, when diluted according to the manufacturer's instructions, can cost less than €1 per application, and in some cases, well below €1 per application. But again, from my experience, most of them don't work very well anymore. This one works at a 1 to 5 ratio, and that's what I told you before. Now you can experiment for yourselves if you want to get it. At what dilution does it still work very well? Because here it is stated by Infinity Wax 1 to 10 for general use, 2001 and 1 to 25 is the maximum specified or recommended dilution. And now you can try out at which dilution it still cleans satisfactorily for the level of dirt you have on your car. Basically, I give this product a recommendation after this test. Note, I have also applied it to other vehicles with different types of dirt. This is now simply the standard test for me on my girlfriend's car, which I film each time 2000 and 1000, and I show you in these videos. Infinity Wax Citrus gets my recommendation. It works. And from my experience and perspective, it works just as well as the Stjarnagloss Först. That means you now have the choice of whether you prefer to get a ready-to-use product or a concentrate. If you found the video helpful, we would be very happy if you could like. Support the channel with a free subscription and tune in for the next video. Goodbye.